Welcome to Life in Long-Term Care. This session is for people who are supporting someone who's living in care with dementia and who would like to get some ideas and strategies on how to work with the care team and make the most out of their visits. Today we're going to talk about how your role changes as a caregiver after the person you're supporting moves into long-term care. We'll look at shifting to a team approach to care and how families are an integral part of that care team. We'll discuss self-advocacy and how to enhance your visits and how to end them gently. And lastly, we'll talk about the common phrase you might hear at some point, "I want to go home," and what that might mean. Each of you know the person you are supporting better than the care team does. You have an understanding of who they are, what they like and dislike. You know their triggers or things that can help them feel more at ease, their routines, their cultural backgrounds, and their history. All of this information can be very helpful for the care team to know. Taking some time to think about this information and then sharing it with the care team can provide a less stressful environment. In our education, Transitioning to Care, we provide a booklet called All About Me, which is helpful to record person-centered details to the care team. If you haven't seen the booklet, there is a link below this video to a helpful resources page, and All About Me is listed at the bottom. As there are many staff members working shifts throughout the day and night, this booklet can be a particularly effective tool for communicating with the whole team. Often, when we're supporting someone who is still living independently or semi-independently, we naturally use a person-centered approach to care, which is where we see people as individuals, as opposed to primarily seeing a disease or a diagnosis. We are sensitive to someone's unique needs, such as how they like their blanket to be placed, what makes them feel good, what comforts them, what upsets them, and we tend to care for and respond to the person with these considerations in mind. When a person moves into care, the new care team will not have the background knowledge and understanding to support that person in the same way they were previously supported. At this point, it becomes important for you to take a more active approach in helping the care team understand the unique needs of the personality of the person in your care, as well as your own expectations. So, spend a bit of time thinking about your own situation and jot down what bits of information could you provide to the care team to help them respond in a caring and supportive manner. Some ways that other people have helped out is by talking about the person's personality, telling them, the care team, what makes the person happy, what makes them sad. Is there something that comforts them? Is there something they don't like? For example, is there a certain song or TV show that calms them down? You can think about their life story. What do you know about how they grew up? Who are their family members? What type of job did they do? What are their interests, hobbies? Because people living with dementia may experience stronger memories from much older periods in their lives, this kind of information can be incredibly helpful to the care team and can provide a good basis for some of your own visits. You also might want to consider and share some of their strengths. What can they do well now? What do they like to do? And think and talk about ways to connect with them. Are they sociable? Do they like to help out? What makes them light up? So again, I encourage you to think about your own situation and what information you can provide to your care team. It can also be helpful to have visual prompts in the room to help the staff remember what you've mentioned to them, or for new staff. Some care homes will let you put up a small bulletin board where you can display important reminders that can be easily seen by staff. Use as few words as possible on these reminders. Some additional ideas on how to help staff get to know the person in care could include hanging pictures. Putting visual cues on the wall can help prompt the team for points of conversation, or to use as a distraction. Pictures can also be comforting for the person in care. Display important and meaningful items clearly in the room. These are not expensive items, but rather things that can be comforting and soothing to help someone feel more at ease, such as an important blanket or a scarf that makes the person feel more at ease. Note, sometimes these items go missing, and so label items and pictures. This will help identify what gives certain items meaning and to whom they belong in case they go missing. And as I mentioned previously, the All About Me booklet, which is created by the Alzheimer Society, this can help provide some prompts and important information to the care team. The care team may not always have time to sit and go through an entire album, but for some, having a photo album with interesting pictures or things to talk about may be comforting. Again, make sure it's labeled and potentially can be kept somewhere safe, like in a drawer or inside a closet. A life board, which can be posted on the wall, can highlight key events in someone's life. This is similar to having photos up, but life boards usually tell a bit more of a story. Have a place, a phone in a locked drawer maybe, where songs can be played. You may want to have a CD player or a radio that's set on a timer to play a certain station at a certain time. And of course, you're going to have your own ideas around things that you've found helpful or that you think might be helpful. Don't hesitate to share those things with the team. You might want to create a one-page paper with things I like, things that help me to be calm, my favorite song, words that calm me, my favorite talking points, a phrase that helps me feel safe, my favorite snack. Having a recording of the caregiver's voice saying they love them and will be there to see them soon. Inevitably, there will be differences between caregiving when someone moves into a care home and the care that was being provided at home. It's important for you to know that your role as a care provider remains even when someone moves into care. The role just may look a bit different than it did before. There can be an adjustment period for caregivers as well as the person who has moved into care. As this quote says, "You are still steering the ship. You just have more crew." That is, more support now. And as we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, caregivers are more than just visitors. Some caregivers continue to provide a great deal of care to their person long after the move, such as meal assistance, grooming, mobility assistance, and more. So think about, what does good care look like for you? Good care can mean different things to different people. When you think about the concept of good care, what does it mean for you and the person living in care? To help you with this, think about what's important to you and to the person who's living in care. Think about the things we talked about at the beginning of this video, about personality, routines, cultural backgrounds and history, about likes and dislikes. When you have an idea of what good care can mean to you and the person in care, communicate these things to the care home. Know that it may not always be perfect, but working together as a team can help open lines of communication, support, and understanding. When we hear the term advocacy, many of us will think about protests at City Hall or in front of government buildings, writing letters to government or campaigning for a cause. This is known as systemic advocacy. There is another form of advocacy that you as a care partner can take on. When you are looking out for the best interests of the person in care, you are practicing self-advocacy. Self-advocacy refers to what we do to improve a situation for ourselves, a family member, or another individual. Seeking help from your doctor, applying for a disability tax credit, or ensuring person-centered care in a care residence are all examples of self-advocacy. Knowing this, then you can understand how advocacy can be an important part of accessing services and supporting someone living in a care residence, especially when you are wanting to ensure that you receive the care and support both you and the person living with dementia need. One thing to do early on is identify who your contact person is should you want to reach out to someone about questions or concerns. This is consistently confusing for people, so knowing who your key point of contact is, be it a social worker, head nurse, someone different, this will really help out when you need to discuss questions or you have concerns. Know that you can take both formal and informal paths when advocating for the person in care, and that Sections 60 and 89 of the Residential Care Regulations outline expectations on the care facilities around dispute resolution. Starting with the informal process, ideally, if you are satisfied, dissatisfied, or concerned about something to do with the care being provided, speak with the person who provided the service initially, or a manager who can help address the issue early on. This is where you would start. Generally, complaints are best addressed and resolved at the time and place they occur. In doing this, you may also gain a greater understanding of why the issue occurred in the first place. However, if you have done this and feel that your concern is not being addressed appropriately, then ask to speak with the director of care. This will usually mean setting up an appointment, as these people can have very busy schedules. Ensuring that there is appropriate time given to you to discuss your concern is important. Make sure you're prepared for this meeting. We'll talk about some things you can do to prepare for this meeting in the next slide. If, after speaking with the director of care, you are still feeling that the issue is unresolved, you do have other options. You can also contact the Community Care Licensing Office or the Patient Care Quality Office located within the health authority that the care residence resides. If a resolution is still not met after contacting them, then you can also contact the Patient Care Quality Review Board. Also know that you have options when advocating, and there are resources to support you throughout this process. There is a lot of information on our website about self-advocacy. We also have several supporting materials that may be useful along your advocacy journey, and you can just search self-advocacy on our website. It can also be helpful to document your concerns and capturing information about any incidents that may have occurred, who you've already spoken with about them, proposed resolutions if given, and why they may not have worked, as well as any other information that will be helpful in supporting your concerns and working towards a resolution, and what that may mean for you and the person that you are supporting. I've spent a while talking about how you can work with the care team to better support the person living in care. But now let's turn to look more at the two of you and how you can stay connected once a person has moved into care. Depending on your circumstances, how you visit will not look the same as for someone else. There are many different ways that you can visit and stay connected. For example, because of distance, illness, weather, or any other reason, many people may be visiting virtually. Others will visit in person. Given the restrictions of time today, we're only just going to touch on the surface of ways that you can stay connected, which may include, for many of us, when we talk about visiting, we immediately think about meeting in person. This is absolutely an option, but also know there are many other ways to visit outside of being an in-person visit, including talking over the phone. The person in care may have a landline in their room, a cell phone they still use, or there may be a centralized number that can be called to connect with someone. Some facilities have started to offer Zoom calls, or if the person in care has a cell phone or a tablet, FaceTime or Skype may be options. There can also be blended visits where someone is visiting in person and they then Skype, FaceTime, or Zoom call others who are at a distance. And don't forget, there's still the option of sending a written letter, a little gift package, a card, or some pictures by post. Ultimately, staying connected and visiting is a personal choice, and it will take time to figure things out. There's no correct number of times to visit the person. There shouldn't be judgment around this. Please know you are doing your best. Also know that visiting may look different from what you originally expected, and it will look different for each person. Guilt may play a part in this process, and sometimes those with the best intentions may cause this guilt, which can cause additional challenges. In the end, know that whatever you decide is the right decision for you and the person in care. If you're struggling to find ways to keep connected, you may want to reach out to our dementia helpline or staff at the long-term care home to discuss this. For those of you who are already caring for someone who lived in long-term care, think about how your visits have changed over time. And if they have changed, what has been the most surprising thing about how your visits have changed? Visiting is a personal choice. In order to have a successful visit, one thing to consider is that people living with dementia often remember events from the distant past better than those that occurred after or shortly before the onset of their disease. For this reason, when visiting with someone, it can be very helpful to know where the person is at in their reality. Are they 65 and recently retired? Are they 55 and sending their children to college? Are they caring for a young child or baby? Are they themselves a young child living with their parents? Figuring out where they are on their age line can help us understand what they say, what they do, where their interests are, and what their needs might be. Knowing earlier life events can orient, comfort, and soothe the person you are supporting. Additionally, knowing some key triggers during that same period can help alleviate stress or perceptions. Here's a couple of examples. One client talked about how her mom, who was living in long-term care, would often complain to her on the phone about how she was having to work for so many days in a row. She previously was a care aide in a long-term care home. The daughter would respond, "Yeah, you must be tired working all of those hours. But it's okay, Mom, because tomorrow you have a day off and you can rest." Another client talked about how one time when she visited her dad, he got very agitated and upset. And she realized that her long hair was a trigger for his dad because in that moment her father didn't recognize her daughter for who she was, but rather was mistaking her for someone from his past. Because of this, she decided to cut her hair to help her dad feel more at ease during their visits, and it worked. In addition to the age timeline, there are other key considerations that can help make a visit easier. As the dementia progresses, the person you're visiting may not recognize you as someone that you know. For this reason, you may want to introduce yourself and say why you're connecting. "Hi, Mary, it's Jane, your old friend. I'm calling to chat with you today." You may also want to consider whether you use their first name, that is something they would be most familiar with, Mary, as opposed to what you knew them by or know them by, such as Mum, Honey, Sis. Think about the environment that you and they are in during the visit. Make it as comfortable and pleasant by reducing background noises. Turn off a TV or a radio, close a door or shut a window, or go to a quiet room. Consider potential visual or auditory stimuli that may become a distraction. Will a window be a visual distraction or a pleasant discussion topic? Having a more focused and less confusing environment for both people can allow for a more focused visit. When thinking about the previous slide and the age category the person may be living in, you may have to answer some difficult questions during the visit. Common questions include asking when they can go home and when someone who died a long time ago will come and visit. This can not only be challenging for you, but it might also bring up difficult feelings for you as well. Thinking ahead of time about how you might respond to these types of questions can be helpful for both of you. In these types of situations, acknowledging their feelings and reassuring them that they are safe, loved, and cared for can go a long way to help them feel at ease. Focus on the person. What are their preferences? Consider asking the person what they want to do. By encouraging the person you're visiting with to make decisions about how you spend time together, you can help to enhance their independence and self-esteem. Generally, when offering options, it's a good idea to limit the choices. Try asking, would you like to go for a walk or sit here and chat? If that is too much choice, try yes, no questions, such as, would you like to go for a walk? With this personal choice in mind, some aspects to stay connected include if you will visit. Although some staff may recommend not coming for an in-person visit for the first few weeks to allow for an adjustment period, others will suggest that an in-person visit can help the person better adjust to their new environment. Ultimately, do what you feel is best and also what can work for you. Staff cannot force you to visit or force you not to visit. How often you visit, in person or virtually, will also be a consideration. Know that quality of time may become more important than the number of times you connect. You may also choose to limit in-person visits and increase virtual visits. Again, this is your decision to make. Another aspect of staying connected to consider is for how long you visit. And again, this is a personal choice. However, if you, for example, doing a Zoom visit, there may be limits to a staff's time to support a call. If doing any virtual visit, think about the person's attention span. Are they tired and need a rest? Is it time for them to go eat something? Are they distracted by others or activities going on in the home? Again, this is a personal choice and you will have to decide what works best. But remember to consider the quality of the visit as opposed to the quantity of the visit. As an example, a 15-minute engaged visit may be better than a 3-hour visit. And finally, considering when to plan your visit will also be important. Moving to a new home can mean new routines, and there will likely be adjustments with a new schedule. There may be certain times of day that don't work as well in a new environment. Thinking about this can help make for a better visit in the end. Understanding time schedules can help you plan your visit around times that work best, depending on what you would like to do together. Additionally, if the person living with dementia is more confused or tired at certain times of the day, try to schedule visits when they will be alert and engaged. If there are times of the day when they become anxious or agitated, think about scheduling a visit at a time when the person may need some reassurance or support. As an example, a client of ours knew that her mom started to get agitated after supper, so she would plan her phone calls at this time as a helpful distraction for her mom, and also to help her mom feel more at ease hearing a familiar voice, even though her mom couldn't remember that she was talking to her daughter. And when we think about visiting a person in care, it's common to have expectation for how you want the visit to go. The visit may not always go as planned or how we intended it to. Having an idea of what you'd like to happen can be part of the planning process around your visit. But just because you decide if, how often, how long, and when, it doesn't mean that this can't change. It's okay to change your choices. It's okay to shift visits from in-person to virtual. It's okay to reduce visits if necessary. Being flexible and open to changes are likely to help in the end. We have a few more tips to go over for visiting, but as I go through these, think about what a good visit looks like for you. and think about tips or strategies that you may already use. So, think about, is there a better time or day for a visit? Is there an activity you like to do? How do you end your visits, or how do you think might be a successful way to end a visit? What works well for you? It can be challenging to communicate with someone who has limited verbal capacity, since you may not know what it is they would like to do, or if they're enjoying the visit. Here's a review of some key considerations when communicating effectively with a person living with dementia. We go into further detail about communication strategies in our Understanding Communication video. So, face the person at eye level. Peripheral vision changes as dementia progresses, and it can become increasingly challenging for a person living with dementia to see a person who is not in their direct line of sight. When approaching the person that you're visiting, position yourself where they can see you before you start talking, and approach the person in a calm and friendly way. Speak slowly and calmly. Use short, simple sentences and give time for the person to process what you've said before moving on. And just as you give time for the person to process what has been said, also you make sure to give time for the person to provide a response. It can be helpful to show as you talk. Using actions as you talk can help give your words meaning. For example, if you're visiting someone in person at lunchtime and are asking if they would like butter on their bread, hold up the butter and gesture to the bread. Give them the attention needed to show that you are interested and engaged in what they are doing and saying. Knowing the person can help you to know the keys to communication. Are there certain ways they like to communicate? Do they need hearing aids or glasses to help them? Are there ways they can be more comfortable? A preferred chair, blanket, or pillow? Are there topics of conversation or activities that they enjoy? Additional things to keep in mind during a visit include, as we've already mentioned, their reality may be very different from yours. Be flexible with your reality. Avoid arguments, debates, or correcting mistakes. They may become overstimulated and/or tired during a visit for any number of reasons. Try to gauge how things are going and be mindful if you need to switch tasks or end a visit early. Take the time needed to be present and be prepared to listen to the person. People may want to share their feelings. Remain open and sympathetic. And finally, as I've mentioned before, use your knowledge of the person to think of an activity you'd like to do during your visit, or a topic you'd like to talk about. Thinking about their likes and dislikes can really help during a visit. Before shifting into specific activities you can do, think about ways you might be able to establish a connection in order to engage and encourage the person to do an activity. There are many different ways this can be done. Some options can include bringing in photographs, videos, and letters. Photos from when they were younger can be particularly helpful. Take some time to think about the person's talents and abilities, and even how they're doing on that day. Would a relaxing visit watching a movie be a good option, or is getting some exercise a better option? Is there a familiar game or craft activity they would be interested in doing? If there isn't a particular activity that is of interest, is there a particular item or person that you think the person would like to connect with? Can you bring in another person to visit? Is there a treat the person would enjoy? Sharing memories about the past can help the person to be engaged. Remember, the past is something that may be easier for the person in care to recall. Remember together, laugh together. Sometimes just sitting in silence can be meaningful. In our daily lives, we don't always engage in conversations or activities, so having some time to sit together can be a nice option. We provide here a list of some possible activities that you can do during a visit. All of these activities can be done virtually, in person, or a combination of the two. You just may need to be a bit more creative if your visit is virtual. The list includes playing a game together, working on a project, doing a jigsaw puzzle, having a tea party, participating in activity time, listening to some music, and you may want to make a song list for the person to play when you aren't around. You could watch a movie together or read a book or newspaper together and potentially talk about it after. Additionally, when doing an in-person visit, it may be helpful to know if there are any special events going on at activity time. Would this be something you would also like to participate in? Alternatively, if you're planning a virtual visit, knowing this can help you to plan to connect outside of the activity event time. Many have found that creating a sense of purpose for the activity they choose to do can help give a reason or motivation for the person to do it. It may also give you or the person something to look forward to doing together. Many people have told us that one of the hardest parts of visiting is ending the visit. Some are concerned about how the person living in care is going to react when it is time to leave, or how they will be supported during this transition period. Ending a visit can also be difficult as for you as the visitor, because there may be conflicted feelings about saying goodbye. Whether or not the visit was a good visit may also impact how you feel at the end of a visit. There are some things that you can do to help ease this transition time for both yourself and the person living in care. Also, many have told us that ending a visit gets easier as time progresses, and the person living in care gets more adjusted to their new environment. Let's talk about some ways to support this transition. We want to acknowledge again that goodbyes can be challenging. If you're concerned that the person you're visiting will be upset when you leave, talk to staff and see what they have to say. Maybe the person adjusts quite well once you're gone. Staff may also have some strategies for ending a visit that they have seen work well. Here are a few that you can consider. The person you are visiting may pick up on your own emotions. So if you're feeling frustrated, upset, or angry, then they may feel as though they have done something to cause this. Staying positive and providing reassurances that you'll visit again can help ease any anxiety they may be feeling. You may want to consider a soft transition into ending the visit. If you're quite engaged in an activity or having a discussion, ending the visit quickly may be jarring. Try to find a natural time to end a visit. Also, leading up to leaving can be helpful for some. Reminding them that you need to leave in 15 minutes or at 2 p.m., for example, can help prepare them for the transition. If the person you are seeing is a hugger, try hugging the person earlier instead of just before you leave. Make ending the visit seem more part of their daily routine so it doesn't feel so sudden or feel as though you won't be coming back. Validate what is being said. Acknowledge their feelings. Being able to name how they're feeling may help them feel better or help them see that people understand how they are feeling. And redirect their attention. Consider ending the visit when an event such as lunch or bingo might be starting, so the person has somewhere to go and something to do once you leave. Having the end of your visit coincide with going to a meal or an activity can make for a natural end to the visit and can be a distraction for the person. You may want to ask staff to help with this transition. The excuse that you use may be legitimate or it may be created. You can have something you need to go do. You go to bowling or meal. I'm going shopping and pick up something from the store. It may just provide you with a reason to leave the room. I need to go to the bathroom, or I need to see the nurse. Or it might better reflect something that resonates with their history rather than your current reality. I need to go home and make lunch for my husband. I can't be late, so I have to run. We talk more about strategies and how to support someone who's telling you they want to go home in the transition to long-term care session, also on our on-demand page. However, this can definitely come up during a visit or may become more prominent as you are ending the visit or even after the visit has ended. So we want to highlight here some things you may want to consider about wanting to go home. Remember the timeline we discussed earlier? This can become particularly significant around wanting to go home because home may not be what you think it is. In fact, home could mean a different room in the care home they're living in. Therefore, what becomes helpful to address is the want in this statement. What is it they want? Is it safety? Is it feeling connected to others? Something familiar? Just being with you? If you can understand their want, you might be able to help ease this transition by providing reassurances. I'll connect with you later tonight or this week and validating their feelings. It is difficult to say goodbye. I think bingo is just about to start and some of your friends will be going. Ask the care home what you're allowed to bring from home to increase familiarity and comfort, or rearrange if possible. Can you put the lamp on the same side of the table as at home, for example? Ask staff about restrictions. You may not be able to bring a dresser from home, but likely can bring a favorite blanket, pictures, or curtains from home. You may just have to create a reason as to why they are where they are. Try not to be perceived as the enemy or having put them in a home. This can be damaging for the relationship. Instead, validate their feelings and explain why they are there. Of course you want to come home. I would too. I would love it if you could come home with me. But the doctor says you need to stay here a few more days until your knee gets better, until you're stronger and can walk more steady. Have a reason that is more tangible or medical, something they could relate to or understand. A few more days becomes a phrase that you might be saying for years, but it can help ease the transition. And like we just said, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you are perceived to be the enemy or having wanted the person to stay in this place. Saying, "But Dad, you are home," or "This is your home now," may cause anger for the person living in care. Again, going back to the concept of therapeutic fibbing, you may just have to say, "You're just here for a while," or "I'll talk to the doctor about this for you." Once the caregiver stops becoming the enemy wanting them to stay in this new place, relationships often improve, and it can make it easier for the transitions. While we've talked about strategies to support the person living in care with ending a visit, we also want to acknowledge that this can be a very difficult time for the visitor as well. Feelings such as frustration, anxiety, fear, sadness, grief, happiness, and guilt may all be mixed together, and it can be challenging to know how to deal with all of this. Recognizing and acknowledging the feelings you are experiencing can help you manage how you cope. If you are finding things to be overwhelming and challenging, we strongly suggest seeking support for yourself. You can connect with family or friends. It could be through the Alzheimer Society's caregiver support groups, or by calling the dementia helpline to talk to someone about how things are going. It could also be reaching out to a healthcare professional such as your doctor or a counselor. What we want to emphasize here is to not forget about yourself and the importance of taking care of yourself during this journey. If you're unsure, don't forget to ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. Reach out to the care home and get the clarification. Speak with your case manager. There will be things you don't understand or don't know, and asking questions can help to clarify things for you. And enough cannot be said about the fact that you are on an unpredictable journey, and that journey can be very difficult. You likely will encounter unexpected situations, and you likely will perceive at times that your reactions may not always have been the best. Recognize that you are human and you are doing your best. Ultimately, if you start to feel overwhelmed, seek help and support from others. And one of the places you may want to reach out for help and support is the First Link Dementia Helpline. If you have questions about information you've heard here or any other questions about living with dementia, or are interested in support groups or Minds in Motion, please don't hesitate to call our First Link Dementia Helpline. English services are available Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 1-800-936-6033.